Welcome to episode 15 of the Benchwarmers Perspective. Today I'm with none other than Rick Zoulek from Shelby Basketball. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So it's a little early for basketball season.
It is.
Some will say there's never early. How long have you been coaching?
This will be, when my son was born, I started with him.
Yeah.
So 50 years, if you count that.
Yeah.
Because he's 50. But no, this is my 40th year at Shelby.
Yeah. So big year. Going into the season, are you pretty pumped?
Yeah, I'm always pumped, though.
Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah. Any big names coming through Shelby coming up here soon? I know one of them would be Eli Kelly. I've heard a little bit about him. He'll be playing the one for you, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And he had a good year last year as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so we're looking for a lot of things from him.
Yeah.
Leadership especially. But hopefully he can step his game up a little bit this year. We've got some juniors that are coming back.
Yeah.
So that I had up as sophomores. So
Yeah.
we only have two seniors, Griffin Olmstead and Nathan Miller.
Yep.
And there's possibility Caden Halleck too is coming back, but
Yeah.
two that played a lot.
So what games have you taken a look at your schedule this year yet? Or
I really haven't.
yeah. So obviously you're going to play the North Muskegon.
Yep.
North Muskegon squad. They won't have James Young this year. How do you kind of feel about that?
Amen to that.
Yeah.
But no, James is a great athlete, and I hope he does well at Muskegon. But North Muskegon's still going to be tough. They got a lot of good kids coming back, and
Yeah.
I think Hart will be right there with
Yeah.
them. They had a real good JV team, and they had a solid year last year. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a fun league again.
Yeah. So conference division, a few years ago, the conference split. How much has that impacted you guys from a basketball program standpoint?
Well, from the program, it really hasn't.
Yeah.
You know what? I miss it because we were always good rivals with Montague, Whitehall, Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
I miss playing them twice.
Yeah.
Because you could play them once and then do some things to maybe
Yeah.
adjust for the second time. And now it's just basically a non-conference game.
Yeah.
So I miss that kind of heated rivalry
Yeah.
that we used to have.
Yeah. What was your favorite team to play before the conference split?
We'd really, I would probably say between Montague and Hart, because one's right on our north side, one's right on
Yeah.
our south side. They're probably our two biggest rivals. But, I always loved playing Whitehall because you knew they were going to have
Yeah.
good players and good athletes and good coaches. So
Yeah.
it was always fun to play them and kind of hang around and maybe upset them when
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because they kind of look, at Shelby as being a smaller school.
Yeah.
But I miss playing Tracy and Oak Ridge
Yeah.
twice. And,
Yeah.
So I just miss those close rivalries that we
Yeah.
had.
So what was one of your give me kind of a story of one of your favorite games that you've played?
Oh my gosh.
I know you've got a lot.
I do. And somebody's asked me that before, okay, who's your top 5 players on your
Yeah.
all-time team? And oh my gosh, that was really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. But, one game that obviously the state semifinal game
Yep.
with DJ Beckman and J.R. James and Lucas Landis, and I had some great players and some really solid guards there. Playing in the Breslin Center was really awesome.
Yeah.
And the kids fought like crazy. That was just such a fun game. One I really sticks out in my mind too is the Montague Shelby game. I think it was over at Holton in the regionals.
Yeah.
I had some of the Beckman kids, and I think I had maybe Devin Muscle, maybe I can't remember all the kids that were on it.
Yeah.
But I just remember Montague had really good team.
Yeah.
And they had some studs, and they had a kid that transferred in from, I think, Pentwater or up north somewhere that played for him. Really a good guard. And it was just nip and tuck the whole game. And I think it was it might have been a regional game or maybe district final. but anyways, the kids, I basically just sat there and enjoyed it. I mean,
Yeah.
after the game, I thought, wow, what just happened here?
Yeah.
And we beat Montague after they were rated like 4th or 5th in the state.
Yeah.
And we were kind of honorable mention or something
Yeah.
like that too. So that game sticks out just
Yeah.
because it was such a great high school game
Yeah.
where both teams played really, really well.
Yeah.
And obviously we came out on top, but I don't know if I've seen two teams play that
Yeah.
well against each other in that type of situation.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So something I always remember playing you guys was the flex offense. How did you kind of get started down that path? I know, like when I was in school, we ran 5 out was the offense, and Coach Osborne had found that offense through a team that made it to the state finals or something, and kind of studied it. How'd you get started on the flex offense, or where did you kind of, because that was recent, that recent as to how long basketball's been around, but
Yeah.
like
I'm
2000s.
recent then too.
Yeah, 2000s was kind of when that became a big thing. When did you get started on that?
Yeah, it was probably right around there.
Yeah.
I go to clinics every year.
Yeah.
I go to our BCAM clinic, whether it's online or
Yep.
whether not. And I always helped, and I tried to be an active member in BCAM. But we pick up so much stuff, so much good stuff that's applicable to the group that we have coming through.
Yeah.
And I just remember writing that down and thinking, boy, this is so hard to guard.
Yeah.
And against a man-to-man, how do you, if you switch it all the time, something's going to be open.
Yeah.
If you don't switch it all the time, then there's other things going to be open. So if you can I like it because it gets everybody moving,
Yeah.
and it's a continuity type offense.
Yeah.
And the only bad part is once in a while you get your posts out top,
Yeah.
or out on a wing. And
Yeah. And then it's tough to
yeah,
get something going downhill.
then it's hard to get it downhill. But I like it just because of that. I like it for Jeffrey Beckman, for example. It allowed him to come out top once in a while
Yeah.
and catch and rip and drive, or
Yeah.
he was good enough shooter from the elbow to shoot from there.
Yeah.
So I had guys that were versatile enough that could run that. And again, I think it's what fits your program,
Yeah.
and what you like to do. I just liked it because it involved everybody.
Yeah.
And the same thing with a motion offense.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, CatchMark Technologies. If you're looking for technical support, structured cabling, cybersecurity, or digital marketing, they're your go-to team. With tons of experience, they will guide you through all of your technical problems. Reach out to them at catchmarkit.com.
I've run motion offense
Yeah.
forever, and that's still a staple, but I don't run it all the time.
Yeah.
We do a lot of sets. I've picked up a lot of different sets throughout the years from Judd Heathcote
Yeah.
and Tom Izzo at Michigan State, because they run a lot of set stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll pick up some of those too. But I don't think you can ever learn enough.
Yeah.
You find what's working against teams that, okay, they're playing you a man-to-man defense this way, or I'm playing a zone this way, a 1-2-2 or a 2-3 or a 1-3-1. There's so many different things that you got to find something that works that the kids can do that will fit into their skill level.
Yeah.
And I really like the flex.
Yeah.
It-
So how do you think, like, one of the things that I always remember Coach Osborne saying was, they're gonna put us to sleep. They're gonna run this thing perfectly, and they're gonna do it over and over again, and you're gonna forget your guy. You're gonna turn around, and hit a jumper in your face. How do you think that offense does with a shot clock, if they were to add a shot?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love it. Because, once you get to that 10-second mark,
Yeah.
you want to try to start to attack or start to
Yeah.
be ready. We never did it really to run the clock.
Yeah.
We did it just until we got a good look or
Yeah.
a good cut to the basket. And so the kids will probably like it better because they don't have to wait
Yeah.
so long. If it's a 30-second shot
Yeah.
clock, they're going to know that, okay, we only have to do this for 20 seconds now instead of
Yeah.
40,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
coach likes us to do. But, I don't think the shot clock is going to affect it all.
Yeah.
I'm going to like it, I think, against that. And I'm going
Yeah.
to do some different things if that ever
Yeah.
comes in. But, again, it depends on your personnel.
Yeah.
If if I've got a guy like Jason Beckman that catches up top and he's ready for a shot, he better shoot it.
Yeah.
I don't care where we're at in the
Yeah.
offense. Or DJ Beckman, if he's open,
Yep.
take the shot. The whole name of the game is put that round thing in the round thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's not about running until you get a layup.
Yeah.
It's what you have in your arsenal.
Yeah.
And if you've got the open look, you hit it.
Yeah.
I've never yelled at a kid for taking a shot that they're good at,
Yeah.
and they miss it. That's
Yeah.
the way it goes.
Yeah. So are you a proponent, like, are you on shot clock in high school ball side?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I've never been a big fan of the four corner offense, the four delay offense, where
Yeah.
you run it and run it and run it, with 2 minutes to go in the game, and you run a delay offense.
Yeah.
You hear about schools every year that somebody stands out front and holds the ball while the other team stands there in defense and they're in the zone.
Yeah.
And they stand for 2 or 3 minutes. I don't think that's basketball.
Yeah. Well, you're not playing at that
No,
point. Yeah.
no. And I've always been a fan of Dean Smith from North Carolina. He was there a long
Yeah.
time ago, before your time. You
Oh, I
probably
know
don't
who
even.
Dean Smith
Okay.
is. Yeah.
And he did the four corner offense.
Yeah.
I mean, that was big for them before the shot clock came too. It's very disciplined offense, and but I just think, with today's game and with today's players, it's good to play, and it's okay to run and execute, but you don't need to do it for 3 minutes.
Yeah. I think it speeds the pace up quite a bit too,
Yeah.
which I think if you look at the WMC specifically overall, and I think most basketball, other than maybe NBA and high-level college, the scoring has gone down quite a bit. And I think it's
Yes.
just because kids and guys aren't as apt to take a shot. Like they're it's weird. They're almost less selfish to take a shot. Like, you get the ball in my hands, there might be somebody on me, but I'm taking that shot. Whereas a lot of guys are the opposite. They're kind of like, okay, let's find the open shot. Let's find the open shot. Almost to a detriment. They'll have an open shot but not feel comfortable taking it.
Right.
And so they won't shoot it. But I think a shot clock will force them to shoot it and force those offenses to move a little faster.
It will, and and the good offensive teams are going to score more.
Yeah.
With that, the bad offensive teams are going to be worse.
Yeah.
Because as a player, who's on your team, who's a shooter and who's not a shooter, and if you have the ball with 5 seconds to go and you're not the typical scorer, you're going to take a bad shot.
Yeah.
So you're going to see more bad shots, I think, because of the shot clock.
Yeah.
It's like the end of a quarter.
Yeah.
Whoever's got it's going to launch it up there.
Yeah.
But that's going to have to be taught and coached that way.
I'll pop that light on. I think they just turned it off in the other room.
And so I think I don't necessarily think it's going to increase the scoring, because I think the thing that's caused scoring to go down is lack of offensive skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't have, and I don't see in the West Michigan Conference and anywhere really, that the overall skill level of all of our players are up there. We always have, everybody has one or two kids that are pretty skilled at scoring.
Yeah.
But when you've got 4 or 5, then you're going to get those points.
I think a good example of that is we had a guy on our team last year who, great shooter. I mean, this kid was top 4 in the state percentage-wise. He was 43.9, and if he's watching this, he'll know who he is. But the reason he was so high percentage is because he only took shots where he was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And as a shooter, you got to be comfortable taking those shots when you got a guy coming out at you, and he wouldn't. He would see the guy coming out on him, and he won't shoot it.
Right.
He'll just kind of be like, I don't know what to do. Whereas, like, you got to be comfortable shooting when that guy's closing out on you, and I think that's where you start to see I think as you go on the lineups in these teams, you got 1 or 2 guys who are super highly skilled offensively. You've got you're probably your one guard and maybe a big man, and then as you go down in the lineups, you see a major drop off in offensive skill, and even further, you see guys who aren't as comfortable taking certain shots. They become more selective on their shots. They become more more role player type
Mhm.
and less score,
Oh,
and
definitely.
they stop thinking score. And
Sure.
so what happens is they're kind of just out there and they play really good defense,
Mhm.
which is why you see the score go down as well.
Right.
I think a shot clock would then push those guys to be, okay, you got to be ready whenever that shot clock's down to 5 seconds to be able to shoot. And so they'd prep those offensive skills a little bit. Quick break from the action to thank our sponsor. Meraki Performance is a leader in performance coaching. Whether you're looking to motivate your business or your athletic team, Meraki Performance can help. Check them out at merakiperform.com. Or going into those games to be able to take that shot.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
Yeah.
I'm doubtful that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, it takes time on the court,
Yeah.
in the gym, out on your hoop,
Yeah.
whatever, to develop those offensive skills.
Yeah.
It's really hard to coach offensive skills.
Yeah.
It's easy to coach an offensive set or
Yeah.
offensive play, screening, those types of things. Defense, we can coach.
It's hard to coach basketball.
Yeah, it's hard to coach shooting. I
Yeah.
mean, that has to come from repetition. That has to come
Yeah.
from ball handling. That has to come from all these other things. And you're exactly right. When you start to feel comfortable, like the player that you mentioned, if you're comfortable with that shot, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But you got to be comfortable in a lot of different situations
Yeah.
in basketball. And somebody that goes out and shoots, and I see this a lot now with kids will go out and shoot, but they really won't work on their
Footwork.
game experience,
yeah.
game shooting,
Yeah.
and so that's what I really try to emphasize in preseason
Yeah.
stuff is working on those game-like situations off a hard dribble,
Yeah.
off a pull-up, off a penetrating kick, be ready,
Yeah.
those types of things. But kids aren't spending as much
Yeah.
time in the gym. They
Yeah.
really aren't. And, we used to score consistently, above 60.
Yeah.
And, now 60 is a huge offensive game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. I should rephrase. Coaching basketball is not kind of what I'm at. I'm coaching somebody who already has the knack and the knows where to be, knows how to move the right way. That's hard to get instilled into a kid, right?
Right.
Like the guys who know, okay, when this guy goes here, I should just kind of naturally float over to here.
Right.
Guy drives baseline, I should just kind of naturally. And I think you see it too in like the open gyms. Like I play basketball on Sundays, on Wednesdays out at Holden's and things like that. And you see it less and less. Like you see guys who just don't really know where to be.
No.
And so what ends up happening is the paint's all crowded.
Yeah.
And at Holden's and those open gyms, that's like the best thing for me because I like to shoot and I'm pretty good at it. So I like to just sit on the perimeter and everybody's packing the paint because they
Right.
don't really know where to be. But as soon as you get those guys who know where to be, and you get a squad of 2 or 3 of those guys
That play together that way.
Yeah, it gets going. The ball gets moving. It becomes the floor opens up because now those guys who are all packing the paint, who are kind of in the way, now have to come out because their guys outside are know where to be. They know how to get there, and they're good shooters. And I think that's kind of where basketball has kind of started to taper off is just the basketball, how to play basketball from the core fundamental baseline,
Right.
like where to be, where to move, how to move,
Sure.
things like that.
And it has, it's like you said, if you're the type of guy that can slash in and cut
Yeah.
in, and if your teammate's not drifting to an open spot,
Yeah.
you're hanging
Yeah.
because they collapse in on you,
Yeah.
and you're ready to kick it out, but there's nobody there. He didn't move. He's stayed out top, or he
Yeah.
didn't, and you're right. Kids don't drift to those openings.
Yeah.
Find a gap. I tell them all the time. Got to find a gap.
Yeah.
When somebody penetrates, find that opening so
Yeah.
he can find you.
Yeah.
And it's hard to teach that.
Yeah.
And we do drills all the time to try to develop that.
Yeah.
But it comes from playing.
Yeah.
Guys like you know that because you play a lot. And
Yeah.
Beckman kids played a lot.
Yeah.
And I have kids that played with them a lot. And I've got a couple of kids like that coming.
The couple of kids are the ones that play a lot,
Right.
and that have that
They pick
experience.
those
playing a
up.
lot. I think you don't see as much of that playing a lot, especially. I think you might in the bigger cities, in like Grand Rapids and the Detroit areas, because there's just more people. But I definitely think in like around here, you don't see it as much. My dad's told me hundreds of stories about people going down to Township in Montague and there being 40, 50 people there
Right.
trying to play. I haven't seen a person out there maybe in like 5 years.
Yeah.
That's like more than 5 people out
Yeah.
there playing. I haven't seen like to get an open gym, I have to call guys. There's not just a group of guys that are going to go every week and you know they're going to be there.
You know somebody's going to be
You
there.
can't just show up and people be
Right.
there. You have to kind of call ahead of time,
You
get
do.
people to come out. And I just think that version of basketball hasn't really developed much. And I think part of the reason that is because kids like to go everywhere else to play, like as in like the AAUs, and in the off season they go play in tournaments, and then you got other sports so they're really, really busy all the time, and they don't really want to go play basketball, so their focus is kind of drifted away from it, which
Exactly.
I think has hurt the game a little bit. Something else I talked to, I can't remember who I talked to. Jess DeBruin. She's the girls basketball coach
Yep.
at Montague. And we were talking about something that refs don't call anymore. And it's a travel, and I see it all the time. And I was surprised at how often I see it when I was coaching last year. And that's the catch, shift their feet, and then go. Like, kids aren't catching in the air and landing in their spot and then going. They're catching, staying still, then moving their feet, and then going. And
At this moment, we would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Park Place Sports. Want to support your local athletics program? Look no further than Park Place Sports. As a leader in banner and sponsorship program for athletes, they provide top-notch services to help your team shine. Visit their Facebook page, Park Place Sports, LLC, and see how they can elevate your athletic program today. Park Place Sports, your partner in athletic excellence.
refs aren't calling that. Have you noticed that too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's trickled down from the college and
Yeah.
the pro game too. If you watch them, they catch and then they go 1-2 and step and
Yeah.
to get their feet organized when they've already established a pivot foot. But
Which it's a travel.
it is.
And
It is.
I've noticed it more and more. I'm like, that guy does it. That guy does it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it over and over again. And then you call it, and they're like, what? That's a travel?
Right. And then once in a while, an official will call it, and it's like the kid goes, what'd I do?
Yeah.
Because he's gotten away with it so many
Yeah.
other times, he doesn't feel like it's a travel.
Yeah.
But it is. And again, that's something we work on is hopping to the ball and stepping to the ball
Yeah.
and catching with that foot down so
Yeah.
you can cross over and rip, those types of things. But when they play and they see it, and I tell them that's a travel. No, it's not. Yeah, it's a travel.
Yeah.
But you're right. Officials haven't called it as much.
Yeah.
The officials have kind of let the game
Expand a little bit.
expand a little bit
Do
too.
you think that's good or bad?
I wish they wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wish they would. I'm an old school person, and
Yeah, no, I actually totally agree with you.
I wish they would call basketball the way basketball was meant to be
Yeah.
called, whether it's charges or whether it's double dribble, whether
Yeah.
it's the fake Euro step
Yeah.
that sometimes gets an extra step in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things that they let go because the game of basketball has changed at the upper levels so
Yeah.
much, and so everything trickles down.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you on that. Like, I think that the more and more I've coached and the more and more I've been involved, you're starting to see it a lot more where things are slipping. Like,
Mm-hmm.
guys have worse footwork coming into high school. Like, the footwork, guys don't know how to step in on their left, coming to their left.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming in left, right when they're going to the left side rather than right, left. And you're like, what are you doing? But nobody's teaching them.
Right.
And it becomes a problem. And I think that's where basketball has started to decline, and why you're seeing the less offensive skill and the less of the little things being done right. And I think that goes all the way back to playing a lot.
It does. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
What you said earlier about the AAU and the travel
Yeah.
stuff, I think that contributes to the lack of skill development
Yeah.
because most of those coaches aren't working on skill development.
Nope. They're working on
They're
winning.
working on playing, running a play, setting screens maybe, but they're working on just scoring,
Yeah.
and they don't work on the stuff that we work on in high school practice.
Yeah.
They definitely don't. And and those kids are spending more time doing that travel stuff.
Yeah.
Even the average, even maybe slightly below average kids and up
Yeah.
are doing that instead of going to camps or going
Yeah.
to, your coach's summer training or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, or playing with your high school team.
Yeah.
Little things like that make a huge difference. But
Yeah.
instead, they're going off as a seventh grader or eighth grader or
Yeah.
even fifth and sixth, and they're going and doing this travel stuff, and they're not getting better. The good kids are still really pretty good, but everybody else is
Yeah.
falling behind because they're not working on any fundamental stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's hurting the small schools worse than it's hurting the
Oh,
big schools.
definitely.
Because the big schools have a bigger pool.
Sure.
If you're one of those good kids, there's more of them. There's more of those kids. Whereas the small schools, you're going to have the same 12 guys that play together all the way through,
Right.
from elementary school to high school. And so when those kids get there, if that divide between the one or two that are really good and the rest of them, it continues to get bigger and
It does.
continues to grow. And I've seen it more and more. I remember when I was in school, and that's 2 or 3 years ago, and like the divide between that group was not very big. Like
Mhm.
I think, like now I think about it, I'm like, if I go back, the guards I had to get through to be able to get minutes, I would get minutes right now on our team as a guard. The only difference between me and me in high school and the guys that we played with in high school was size and athleticism. I'm still not very athletic, and I wasn't very strong. Now, if I'd had that, I would have probably got more minutes because I was a good shooter. I handled the ball pretty well, and I did that. But you look at that, I was the fourth guy off the bench in a guard rotation. Like, I haven't seen that in 2 or 3 years in most teams in the league.
Right.
Maybe
You don't-
Whitehall, maybe.
Yeah.
And even then, still, it's just I don't feel like you see that much anymore.
No.
And like that's where I think that basketball, especially in West Michigan, is struggling, is that third, fourth guy. And I think numbers are down too throughout the entire league.
It is, but it's that way across the state too.
Yeah.
It's not, we feel it and see it because we're here and we watch
Yeah.
our games every week, and we say, wow, it's a lot different than it used to be.
Yeah.
But in talking with other coaches and other ADs and so forth around the state, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Why do you
They're-
think numbers are down so far?
Well, it's the same thing. The good kids, the real good kids, are going to go play by themselves. They're going to play in AEU.
Yeah.
I have a grandson who's going right now. He is going to be a freshman. He played and went to Lowell, and he played travel hockey, travel basketball, travel baseball as a 7th and 8th grader.
Yeah.
He played on his school team as an 8th grader. They moved to Forest Hills.
Yeah.
Forest Hills had a lot of kids. It's a big school.
Yeah.
Forest Hills Northern. He was on the A team, but he didn't know any of the kids.
Yeah.
It's not like everybody in
Yeah.
Montague, and you knew all of the kids coming up with
Yeah.
you, probably the grades and above and below you.
Yeah.
These kids he doesn't really know, doesn't
Yeah.
hang out with, and so forth. He comes up to my camps all the time in the summer and spends time with me and comes to my camps. Well, he's going to move in with us this year.
Yeah.
And because he sees what we have, he's followed Shelby forever,
Yeah.
and his mom went to Shelby, and so he's going to move in with us. But
Yeah.
he wants that closeness that
Yeah.
you get in a smaller school. Now, you're right in that we don't have the depth, that you used to have
Yeah.
at guards or at post or at whatever it is. It used to be you would have 8 to 10 really good solid players. Now you're happy to put 5 out there, and hopefully 4 of them are
Solid. Yeah.
It's just a lot different. I would have to make cuts all the time.
Yeah.
I hardly ever have to make cuts anymore. And the same thing with our middle school. Our middle school, we used to have anywhere from 20 to 30 kids every year come out. And we'd say, okay, what are we going to do? How we're going to keep 15? We're going to keep 20? We're going to make 2 teams? You had those problems.
Yeah.
But now we're lucky to get 10 or 12 in a grade.
Yeah.
And lucky to get that. I think we had like 8 last year in our 8th grade and maybe 12 in our 7th grade. So there's just so much other things to occupy their time with now.
Yeah.
Whether it's travel sports, because, in the summer you've got travel soccer, you've got travel hockey, you've got travel softball and baseball. Everything is travel
Yeah.
basically year round.
Yeah.
And so, those kids, instead of maybe going to the courts and shooting
Yeah.
and playing pickup games, they're tired.
Yeah.
They're worn out. They just came off a weekend of playing on a travel team.
Yeah.
And they really don't feel like doing anything. Whereas before, dad would say, why don't you get out of here?
Yeah.
Why don't you get onto the courts or whatever? I remember my son, the same thing. He graduated in 92. And Justin Grants was another one that he just stopped by my house, a former player. He said the same thing about going to Montague. He said when we needed to pick up a game, he said 2 or 3 of us would just drive to Montague and go on their township courts. He said, there's always kids there.
Yeah.
I said, not anymore. It's just different. And kids have gyms. There's gyms around now.
Yeah.
I know there's probably 3 or 4 around Shelby right now that kids will go and play, and some of them are only half-court gyms, but, people build their own gyms. And so they go and they play or they work out there. So instead of all getting together and going, 1 or 2 will go work out and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And, they think that's enough. And they miss out on the social part and the camaraderie part and the team development that, you guys that played with each other and played with Whitehall kids that went out there, or Montague kids, or Shelby kids, or Hart kids. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
You just went out and played basketball.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen as much anymore.
Do you feel that your teams are more individualized, as in they're like, I know at Montague maybe this is a little different just because I don't know the culture at Shelby. I don't know how they are, how it's different there. But at Montague, like every kid in your grade is friend with every kid in your grade. And that's the culture at Montague was always just like, him, he's your friend. Like invite him to go do something. So like for us, the kids I played with, I knew really, really well. Like all of them have been to my house. All of them have hung out. And it's probably pretty similar at Shelby.
It is.
But do you feel that your teams are more individualized now, as in there's not as much of that?
Yeah, there's not as much blending like that because of those travel things.
Yeah.
Because there's so much other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Their parents are willing to let them play travel baseball or travel hockey or travel soccer or whatever. When in reality, if they didn't do that stuff, in the long run, they'd probably be better because they would be closer with their own teammates. They would be closer with their own school kids.
Yeah.
And their own school teams would be better. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Cam Thompson, I mean, I'm sure he plays with a lot of travel stuff, and travels all over. He's a great player, but they would be much better if he would play with his own guys all the time.
Yeah.
And their team would get better because of it. And those are things that in the past we've been able to do. Again, I always refer to the Beckmans because they made sure everybody stayed together and did that stuff. And, they would go down to the courthouse and play on a Sunday afternoon, just the Shelby kids. It wouldn't be a travel team. That would be their travel group.
Yeah, they'd go play.
They'd go call and say, hey, we need 8 guys. Let's go play down at the courthouse. And they would schedule that, and they'd go down and play 2 games at the courthouse, pay for it, and come back. But you just don't see that happen as much.
Yeah.
You hope it does with all the availability of all the gyms and all the courts that's out there. Shelby now, I mean, our village has redone our courts, so we now have Getty is all redone, nice basketball court. Our township park, we have now a township park out west of town.
I saw that.
And, there's been kids out there playing all the time. So hopefully that generates a little more, enthusiasm for those kids. But it's not going to work if they continue to do all these other things.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you want your kids to have experience and have some of that fun stuff available, whether it's travel or whether it's, whatever. Whether it's video games or, whatever, there's just a lot of stuff to do. Yeah. And the kids aren't bored anymore. Yeah. Kids get bored, they get on their computer or they get on their phone or whatever. Yeah. The kids aren't bored, like my kids were when they were growing up. And, all right, let's go out and play wiffle ball in the backyard. Yeah. We're going to go do something. Now they have something already to do. And, and kids don't bug their mom and dad because they're on the phone now
Yeah.
or they're on the computer.
Yeah.
So if they're not bugging mom and dad, they must be okay.
Yeah.
But if they're bored and they're bugging mom and dad are going to say, hey, go out and shoot hoops. Go out and play catch, or hey, let's go throw the football around a little bit. Those types of things. So the culture's changed. I don't think the kids have really changed. They've just adapted to the culture.
Yeah.
And,
I think instead of going and playing basketball, what they're doing is they're coming in and getting on their PS5
Sure.
and they're playing virtual basketball.
oh, and that's fun.
And yeah,
That-
it's in the back of their heads they're thinking it's the same thing, right?
Right.
I might not be getting better myself at basketball, but I'm pretty good at 2K. Right?
Yeah.
Do you find that with your teams, with the changes that have been kind of through culture and sports culture and things like that, do you find that your teams have less leaders on them?
Oh, yes, without a question, without a doubt.
Yeah. I think that's something I've noticed is I find that there's a lot of guys who say that they're leaders, but they're not really.
Mm-hmm.
Their actions say other things. And I think that it's because of that individualized, but that the trust there is the problem, right? There's not a lot of, you might say you're a leader. Oh, I want to be a leader on this team. But what you're really having is a bunch of guys on a team that aren't really a team. They don't know each other to the core. They don't know each other that like I can't ask a guy come over and hang out or whatever. He's just on my basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
He's just there. He's my teammate, right? It's like a job that you hate almost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I feel. It's turned into what you have is you have guys who say, "Oh, I'm a leader. I'm a leader." And they don't really know and act like one. And I found that that's really hard to find lately.
It is.
I feel like it's not there as much.
It is, and I think that's what really makes it important for the coach to do some things together as a team, because that forces them to be together, and then that lets a leader emerge a little bit. But if you don't do that, but again, it's harder.
Yeah.
The cost of going to a camp, a team camp, and so forth is gone up. But then you add in the cost of them going to a travel baseball camp,
And the time commitment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you've got all these things, and I've struggled to get kids to go to a team camp, and you can't go with 5. You got to go to a team camp. You can't just have 5 guys.
Yeah. You want at least like 7.
Yeah, you'd like to have 8 or 10.
Yeah.
But it's just too hard. So if you don't have enough, then nobody goes. Then if nobody goes, you don't develop that camaraderie, and the leadership's takes a back seat.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I think it's really important at your conditioning, at your preseason stuff, that you get everybody together and do stuff together, whether it's once or twice in the summer. It's harder and harder in the summer now to do that. We go camping for 2 days up in Traverse City, and it's amazing to see those kids together for 2 days and how things start to grow as a group. And if I could, I would do that more often.
Yeah.
But, kids have jobs, kids have other things. They have travel soccer. And like I said, the football's coming up, and, they're worried about other things.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of busyness that kind of takes away from the basketball level. The other thing is, too, basketball is a skills sport.
Yeah.
It's not a sport you can just say, oh, I think I'm going to go play basketball this year. If you're an athlete, you're not going to play basketball. If you can't shoot, you can't dribble, you can't pass, you can't catch, you're not going to play.
Yeah.
If you just go out and you shoot and shoot and shoot, you might think, yeah, I can shoot like crazy. I mean, I've had this every so often. A kid will come try out for basketball because he shoots at lunchtime, and he's the best shooter in the gym at lunchtime, playing pig or playing horse or whatever.
Yeah.
But put him on a basketball court and running plays and running up and down 5-on-5.
I actually have a really funny story about
It doesn't have a clue.
So we used to, at lunch, we would play basketball at lunch. This was pre-COVID. And there was this kid that was really, he was super athletic. Like, he was trying to dunk in lunch basketball. And, like, he could. And he wasn't a great shooter, but had the skills. And he had all the skills to be a good basketball player, minus a little bit of a left hand. And I was like, dude, you should try out. Like, just because I thought we need bodies. Like, we need a guy this guy he's not from a great area, and he needs like somewhere to go hang out, and
Sure.
trying to get him in a better headspace and things like that. And he tried out, and he made the team. But what he found real quick is that it's a lot harder than normal just lunch basketball.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden he didn't show up to practice 1 or 2 times, and then he told coach, it's this and this, and he said, I'm just going to be done, because it became a lot harder. And that's where the guys, you kind of filter them out. Is there? Why do you think? I don't think you see this as much with football. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because there's less of the AAU and the travel ball and things like that?
The skill level?
No, the
Or the-
discrepancy and like the 1 or 2 really good kids versus the
Well, again, it's a skill level thing. I think in football, if you're a big kid, you can find a spot on a football team. In soccer, if you're really fast, we'll find a spot for you on the soccer team, even if you've never played before.
yeah
But if you're real fast and you don't have any basketball skills, sorry, I can't use you, because I can't just put you in for defense all the time.
yeah
You've got to be able to dribble. You've got to be able to catch. You've got to be able to not travel. There's rules and there's skills that have to be developed on the basketball court that don't have to deal with, I pick on soccer just because I think it's something that little kids play, and it's a great sport for little kids to play.
yeah
But I think anybody can play it.
mm-hmm.
I think everybody can play it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't take a lot of skill development to be an average soccer player.
yeah
I bet you could play soccer. I don't know if you played soccer. I bet you could play soccer
and be okay
and be pretty good.
yeah
Just because you're quick, and you're coordinated. That doesn't mean you're going to be good at basketball.
yeah
And I think basketball is that unique sport. Same thing in baseball. Baseball, I could be a big kid with just a great arm, and I'm going to find a spot for you on the baseball team. Because you've got some physical characteristics. Or if you're a speedster even, I can use you as a DR, a designated runner, in a lot of situations. Or if you can just catch, I can put you in the outfield, or whatever. But in basketball, it takes that skill.
You have to be able to catch. You have to be able to do
You have to be able to do
shoot.
that, right? In baseball, I don't have to be able to do everything.
Just one.
Just one. Football, I don't have to be able to do everything. Just one thing.
Yeah.
And I think in basketball, I think that takes more time.
Yeah.
I think it's more effort. It takes more focus.
Yeah.
To develop those skills. And I think that's why you see the trickling away from basketball, because whether it's a girl or a boy, they can go play volleyball or they can go play soccer and be okay without
Having
a lot of practice a lot.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to stay in basketball, I got to practice. I got to be able to catch, and I got to be able to dribble.
Yeah.
I don't like to dribble. Sorry, you got to be able to dribble.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. You see fewer and fewer kids willing to put that time into just developing their skill at being able to play basketball. And, and that's why, I have my Saturday morning basketball during the season with little kids come in, and I've never charged for that. And probably my first 20 years, I would have anywhere from 30 to 70 kids.
Yeah.
In a Saturday morning. Great 2-hour babysitting for parents, and kids would come, we'd dribble, pass, shoot, and do fun stuff. We didn't scrimmage a lot, but we did competitive drills, race drills, and stuff like that. And the kids had a good time, but they're working on fundamentals.
Yeah.
These last probably 15 years, I'm lucky to get 10 to 15 kids.
Yeah.
School-wide. That's
Whole
like,
district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And third grade up to sixth grade.
Yeah.
I mean, second grade up to sixth grade. I'm lucky to get 15 kids.
Yeah.
And I still don't charge anything. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you that for some reason parents aren't bringing their kids. And why aren't they? Well, there's other things to do, and they're not bugging their parents.
Yeah.
If they're bugging their parents are going to say, let's go to the gym. I'm throwing you up there for 2 hours and I can go do my shopping. I can go have coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
I can go do that. And Coach Zoulek can take care of you for 2 hours,
Yeah.
no charge. That's not happening.
They don't need to.
Yeah. Why? Right.
Take a phone and throw it in their hand.
Right. It's easier. Yeah. It's easier to let them just get on the computer and play your video games or whatever.
Yeah.
Get on the TV or whatever. And they're not bugging mom and dad.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't happen. And I think that's a shame that that's happening, because kids miss out on the exercise. They miss out on the fun that they can have. And that's where, again, you develop that camaraderie. Like you said, you grow up together doing those things.
Which I think that's where I think small town is really almost better for that, because
It is.
I remember during COVID, this was a really good example. We had, I would every day, I'd go out and I'd play basketball with Owen in the driveway every single day. Like, I'm not kidding, for 4 hours we'd go play.
Oh.
Now, were there fist fights? Do we have was it competitive? Yeah. But then we started having people over. We'd have 3 or 4 people over, and we play 3 on 3 in the driveway, and just playing. And it's during COVID, so it was very limited who we could have over and things like that. But we would still have people over, and I think that type of thing doesn't happen very often anymore, because a guy would rather say, I can either go play basketball, be in a little bit of pain for like 2 hours because I'm running a lot, 3 hours, or I can go get on 2K and play NBA 2K for 3 hours, not even realize, eat some chips and sit on the couch.
Right. I don't get sweaty or anything.
Yeah, and I always, for me, I love playing video games. Like, don't get me wrong. If you ask me what I would do on a Sunday night when I'm not doing anything else, the 3 things would be, I'm either golfing, playing basketball, or I'm playing video games probably. So I do find the value in playing games, but I think that there's a balance there where. Let's take another moment to thank our sponsor, Shoreline Restoration and Construction. Did a storm recently hit your business, home, or other building? Then Shoreline Restoration and Construction can help. They are a leader in remodels, new construction, and much, much more. They also restore water-damaged buildings, flooded basement, and so much more. You can't be playing games all the time, but you also should be able to go out and do other things too. And you shouldn't be completely consuming your time with one thing, but also spending some time elsewhere doing other things.
Right.
Like I would go play basketball too for 2 or 3 hours with Owen out in the driveway, and then we'd come in, we'd be like, okay, what do we do now? And then we go in and we go downstairs and we play games, and we play games together for another 2 or 3 hours. It's summer. What else are you gonna do?
Right.
And then we'd say, okay, we're losing too much. I don't want to play this anymore. And then we go and we either find another game, or we go back outside and play basketball, or we invite some people over to hang out. And I don't think you get that as much anymore. I think it's easier to stay in touch with people, and so you don't have people coming over. You don't have people doing things like that as much.
When it's really, it's great that you had each other.
Yeah.
Because you would, like you said, that competitive nature is there. So I want to do something else. Let's go do this, or let's go do that. And if you don't have that brother or that sister that you can challenge each other, or you can do that with, it makes it easier not to.
Yeah.
You don't drag their butt off the couch or out of the bedroom or whatever it is. So it's a tough situation. It's harder to be a parent today than it ever was.
Yeah.
That's for sure. My grandkids are getting to the age where they might start getting married up, and that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to be the parent that they want to be and still raise the kids the way they want to be raised.
Yeah.
They see the value of old school stuff, but yet it's easy to let that go. It's easy to let some of that stuff go. If the kids are being fine and they're being good, I don't need to do anything to them. I don't need to monitor them.
Yeah.
But it takes work to be a parent, and parents have to be intentional these days, more than I did.
Yeah.
More than maybe your dad did.
Yeah.
Because you guys found stuff yourself.
Yeah.
I can't. Parents today have to guide their kids in the right way. Otherwise,
which is almost harder, because
it's very hard.
Then it's hard not to create the dependability, right? On like, oh, my parents are just gonna find something for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a hard, like, growing up, and I don't have kids. I don't have any experience in this. But growing up, I always remember like I always wanted to find something to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that was having two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You guys like, they're my best friends, right?
Right,
Like I know
exactly.
them best. I live with them. I'm with them every day. I'm like, my brother lives with me now. Like, we wanted to find things to go do together
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't want to have mom over our shoulders.
Sure.
Right. And I think that you find less and less of that because of kids when you get that dependability, right? When mom forces you to go play basketball, you're like, ugh. And then, but at the same time, you're also like, okay, if I want to go do something, I just have to, mom will just take care of it for me.
Right.
And you don't get that dependability. And I think that personality that allows that to grow is starting to fade a little bit.
It is.
And,
it is.
And I think it's sad, but it's also, I think it's hard. It's really hard as a parent. It's one of the things that, like, if I were to become a parent, that I'm most worried about is how to not create the dependability and how to create the competitiveness to not want to be like that,
Right.
and find that balance. Because growing up, I want a kid that I have to have the same experiences that I did
Sure.
for the most part, and that includes the dependability of saying, I want to go out and play basketball on a Sunday. Let's call 7 people and get
Right.
them up to play.
Right. But again, you can help guide that. You know, to help them develop that independence where they don't have to depend on mom and dad.
Yeah.
But you got to say, hey, just call your buddies and go
Yeah.
play football, play baseball, whatever.
Yeah.
But go do that, you know. And I'm not telling you what you have to do, but
Go do it.
just go do something.
Yeah.
And they have to take the initiative to go do that themselves.
Yeah.
That develops that. And you're right. I think by saying, well, my son or my daughter's going to play travel baseball or travel softball,
Yeah.
you're helping them as a parent be involved, but you're also taking away that independence of, is this really what they want to do?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
do you really want to do this, or are you doing it because I want you to?
Yeah.
You know, I want them to do that because they want
I want
to.
them to get better. And that goes all the way back to the high school athletics. I want, and why you're seeing the decline in basketball, I want them to want to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to want to be the best basketball player they can be,
Mm-hmm.
which is where, again, I see a lack of like a want, a drive.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a less and less of kids with drive coming up. You see the 1 or 2 kids, but after that, it's just like, I'm here just because my parents said I should be here,
Right.
but I don't really want to.
It's hard.
And that's where I think it's hard to create that, like, hard to get that moving in kids now.
It is, but again, it goes back to the parents.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, because the parents can help with that. The parent's best teacher, or the kid's best teacher, is their parent.
Yeah.
Obviously, and the teachers can try to help it, and we as coaches can try to help that and try to develop that.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen if they don't have that foundation
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't have it. If you obviously had it, I had it, and you know my kids had it, and so they're independent
Yeah.
and they're driven more, and you don't see that as often now. Like you
Yeah.
said, you still see that 1 or 2 player. You know, and it's exciting for me that I see 1 or 2 players that I have coming this year that are more
That
driven.
want.
You
Yeah.
know, that are more driven, and you hope that catches on.
Yeah.
You know, you hope it catches on and they bring other people with them. But, you know, and I see it with our girls program a little bit more than our boys. We
Yeah.
have some girls that are more driven right now, more girls that are driven than we have boys that are driven.
Yeah.
You know, we have kids that just want to participate.
Yeah.
They say, I think I'm going to go out for wrestling this year. Wait, you played basketball for 2 years, and now you want to wrestle.
Yeah.
And that's okay, you know, but that's the way they are. They just want to participate. You know, and I'm going to play soccer this year instead of football.
Yeah.
Wait, you played football all the way? You know.
Yeah. The other thing I've seen less and less of is leaders that aren't on the court. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So like there's a reason, and I say this every single episode, that this podcast is the Benchwarmers perspective. You know as well as I do, you played against us. I didn't play a ton. But what I did do, I knew I wanted to win. And if that meant me playing and me getting valuable minutes, it meant me getting valuable minutes and playing. But if it meant me sitting on the bench and being there for the team and helping our guys, getting waters for guys, yelling on the bench, being there, like up every time somebody comes off the floor, that's what it meant. And I feel like you have even less of those kids coming through. It's all about, oh, how can I get that gratification of being on the floor? How can I get that? How can I get that? And it's not, how do we succeed? How do we be great? How do we do this, this, and this? It's all I. And I wish there was more of that, because when I was in high school, all I wanted to see was Montague basketball get to a state final. And if that meant me being on the floor, awesome. I'm super happy. And that's not saying I don't want to play. Oh, I wanted to play. Like, if you had asked me, go get out on the floor, or do you want to sit on this bench, or do you want to go be out on the floor? I'm going to tell you I want to be on that floor.
Right.
But I knew my role in that situation. It wasn't to go play every minute of every game. It was to be on the bench, be the guy on the bench, and be that way. And if I wanted my role to change, I had to take action to do it. And I think that's where you see less and less of.
You do. And you need to have those big goals, those big dreams.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's playing in state finals or not, everybody should want to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be it. And you're right. You don't see that in kids as much anymore because they don't have those big goals. They're more individual oriented, and they just want to see the playing time.
Yeah.
You know, I want the team to win, but I want to see some playing time too. You know, that's kind of more important to me than, you know, because you see it after all of a sudden you play a kid and maybe they go in and they have 6 points and they haven't played much. They're pretty happy after a game, even though they lost.
Yeah.
You know, because they got a chance to play, but yet the team got blown out by 20.
Yeah.
But you got your 6 points and you never scored before. It's the same thing. I played basketball at Hope, and as a freshman.
At this moment, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Chris Wank, Century 21 First Class Realty. Looking to sell or purchase a new home? Or perhaps invest in a plot of land? Chris Wank with Century 21 First Class Realty is your go-to expert. As a leader in West Michigan real estate, Chris brings unparalleled knowledge and dedication to every transaction. Don't wait. Call Chris Wank today at 616-414-5420 and take the first step towards your real estate dreams. Century 21 First Class Realty, your trusted partner in West Michigan property.
JV team, I didn't start.
Yeah.
You know, I was just that role player that would come in off the bench.
Yeah.
Well, halfway through the year, semester time, we lost a couple of kids.
Yeah.
And so I stepped into the starting player, the role player of a point guard, and I played the rest of the year. But it was really good for me to see it from a Benchwarmers perspective. Yeah. Because I had high school, I played all the time. I played 3 sports, and I started in 3 sports, both ways in football. And so, but I was the same way. I just loved my role of being that bench warmer and doing what I could to help my teammates. Yeah. And then the next year as a sophomore, I was back in that role again. Yeah. And so it was easy for me because I knew how important it was to do that. And I think that's helped me in my coaching is to understand that I know what these bench warmers are going through, and a good bench warmer is key to having a good team. Yeah. All my best teams, every one of them had good kids on the bench. They were the right kids for that 9th position or that 10th position. You can't put a price on that. Yeah. And I try and as best that I can to stress to them how important they are, because their attitude and their impact is felt in different ways than rebounding. Yeah.
The way I always envisioned it, or the way your comment about 6 points and being on the court and like, oh, they're happy they were on the court, but they didn't win, right? Or they got blown out by 20. I remember we're getting blown out by Whitehall, and Whitehall is always a good team. In fact, Subden's coming in right after this, but I remember getting blown out by Whitehall, and I went in, and it was my senior year, and I'm like, oh, cool, I get to go in. But then I look up at the score, I'm like, okay, I got 20 points to put up on that board. And I know I ain't doing 20. I ain't putting 20. Like, I'm not dumb. I know that, like, there's no way I'm putting 20. And even if I get there, they're putting their starters back in. Right. And that 20 is going, that 10 that I got it down to is going right back to 20. But when we lost, I was still mad. I might have had, I think the most I ever scored in a varsity game was 7. And I was still mad. I'm still like, we lost. Why am I? I'm not happy. We lost. Like this,
Mhm.
I don't want to lose. Who wants to sit here and lose? I want to get in, and I want to. If I'm going to get in, I want to win. Like I'm not coming just to play to lose. Like who does that?
Yeah.
But I've seen more and more kids who are like, I got my 6 minutes, I got my 6 points.
They're not upset.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the bench like, how are you not mad right now? How are you not like I'd get in the game and I'd want to put up 20 just because I wanted. Like I'm like, if I get back in this game and I play in this game and we get back into it because I scored 20, well, coach ain't gonna take me out. I can
Right.
tell you that's for sure. But like, I still want to win. I'm gonna go out there trying to win. I'm not
Right.
gonna go out. I'd rather be the underdog who came out there and put up 20 than, being the one who sat on the bench and did nothing.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's tough. It's very hard to find. I find
It is,
No.
and a part of it is that mentality that everybody's a winner.
yeah,
Everybody's
hate
not
that
a winner.
mentality.
They're not.
Yeah.
And you might be a great person and great in school, but you just happen not to be good in sports. That's okay.
Yeah,
You're great. Be great in wherever you are.
yeah,
But you're not a winner.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you better learn from losing.
yeah,
And that's a good thing, and I just I agree. I hate that. I hate the mentality that everybody needs to play. I hate that mentality that everybody deserves to start or
Yeah.
whatever. And no, they don't.
yeah,
And I don't play favorites. Coaches. I'll tell you right now, coaches' favorites are kids that work hard,
Yeah.
kids that are good teammates, kids that are positive. Those are our favorites, and those are the ones who are going to play.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple. So
Yeah.
if you want to play, you want to be a coach's favorite, just do those
Yeah.
things that you're supposed to do, and you're going to be a coach's favorite.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if 20 points a game. All these other things
Yeah.
that make a coach's favorite.
I'm in the boat where if a kid's doing something dumb, like he's not doing well in school, and it's just because he's not trying, right? But he's putting up 20, 30 a game. I'm benching that kid until he figures school out.
Exactly.
And I think you're seeing that less too. Is like, oh, that kid's a really, really good athlete, and he's putting up a lot of points. I can't touch his like if he does poor in school, I can't touch him, right? I'm the type who's gonna say, you're gonna sit down on the bench until you figure out what's going on, because I don't want you on my team if you can't figure out what you're doing in school, because that's the more important thing. That's the thing. This is a privilege. You need to get that done.
Exactly.
First.
But how often does that impact a travel team?
Not at all.
Exactly.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how they are off the court. It doesn't matter how they are off the field. It doesn't matter how they are at home with mom and dad.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're going to play if they're one of the better skilled kids.
Mhm.
And that builds into that idea. And so then they bring that to their school team.
Yeah.
I don't like that,
Yeah.
And so I really do. There's nothing we can do against that, to
Yeah.
help fight that, except try to keep coaching and try
Yeah.
to keep coaching the right way.
Yeah. Do you find that you get a lot more transfers now? Like as in like kids transferring in or out of your program?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
So,
because we're in a location
Yeah.
where
If you're there because you're
yeah,
right.
you live in the area.
Yeah.
Because Oceana County is, we're kind of secluded.
Yeah.
If a kid, from Scottville wants to go somewhere, they go to Ludington or they'll go to Hart.
Yeah.
Somebody, Montague would probably go to Whitehall.
Yeah.
If they want to,
So
or they can go to North Muskegon.
What I've kind of found and what I've seen lately is there are a lot more transfers. So a kid's
There
not
are.
there's a kid's not bought into the program
Mhm.
just to be bought into the program.
Sure.
They're bought into the program because it gets them something that they want,
Mhm.
whether that's playing time, whether that's the notoriety, whatever that is. And as soon as that doesn't go right, they're gone. They
Yeah.
run. And I don't think that's always that's usually, in my opinion, that's always a bad thing. But I think that dedication to a team is more important than anything else, right? Like I still think when I was a senior, I could have transferred to you guys. I could have transferred to like MCC. I could have transferred to any of these smaller schools and probably gotten minutes.
Right.
Like I'm like, I wasn't a bad basketball player. I just had a lot of good guards in front of me,
Right.
but I didn't. And the reason was because I found being on Montague basketball's team meant more to me than going and playing every minute of every game. And
It's called loyalty.
and I don't see that as much.
No.
And it surprises me because
You don't.
I want there to be so bad because
Mm-hmm.
those types of teams that have that loyalty are so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Shelby you probably get it a little bit more because it's secluded. There's not as many people,
Right.
and it's harder to get to in a way. But I've definitely seen it at Montague. Like a kid isn't doing well, he'll go to Whitehall. He'll go to Muskegon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just saw it with North Muskegon's quarterback, James Young.
Right.
I'm not saying that he did anything wrong and he left because things went bad. Things went great for him last
Right.
year, but
He sees other opportunities.
he sees a better opportunity to go to Muskegon.
Right.
Um,
And you never thought of that. I mean,
Yeah.
I never thought of that. My kids,
yeah,
and I've had a lot of good players come through, and never once did they mention going to somewhere else to
Yeah.
try to get a better opportunity to play.
Yeah.
It was developing the loyalty and staying with the loyalty of
Yeah.
Shelby basketball.
Yeah.
It meant something to them,
Yeah.
just like it does for Montague. For a lot of kids in Montague, it's meant that way. You've talked to Coach Osborne, and he probably was the same way. That
Yeah.
he was living and dying
Montague
blue and white,
Yeah.
and his loyalties were always there.
Yeah.
And it's just it's hard to find that. And again, you see in college now with all the transfer portal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. World's crazy.
It is.
Well, we're
over.
right at time.
Yep.
I love talking with you. How you doing in golf league? Are you
It's fun.
yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Kick the crap out of me then when you played me. So.
Yeah. Well, I've had a few good ones and a few
Yeah.
bad ones. You?
Excited- yeah, I'm doing not great, but we're there for fun, right?
We are. We are.
Oceana got new carts. I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I saw that
so-
online.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on, and I had a bunch of fun talking to you. I think this will be a great episode, and I'm excited to see what you guys do this season and where you guys go and all that. Anything to say?
No, just thanks for having me on, and I feel so blessed. God has blessed me in a lot of different ways, and with all the kids and the family that I have, and
Yeah,
the staff that I've been able to work with, and the people that I've been able to work with, like you guys, and I don't know why God's been so good to me, but
Yeah.
he's been
Yeah.
good to me, and I just want to give him all the glory because I couldn't do it without him and my wife.
Yeah.
I'd be in deep trouble without
Yeah.
him.
yeah.
So
Well, I
thank you.
appreciate you coming on. This was a great episode, and excited to see what you do this season.
Thank you.